All right, you guys, this is going to be a good one. Hold on. I'm going to give you a few minutes to log in. Come on. We're going to talk about something that's going to shock a few people. But the goal is to, help you be informed. You know what I mean? I want you to be informed. I want you to know what many people don't know. I want to put you in a position where you can live your best and your healthiest life. This is going to be good. And let's bring the music down and turn it off. And let's get into this. Hello, everybody. My name is Robert Ferguson. I am a nutritionist. I'm your nutritionist. I'm a guy who shares because I care. And today we're going to talk about the relationship between juicing, green juices, carrot juice, orange juice, kale juice, and the fact that people who consume juice on a regular basis are very much likely to be contributing toward increasing their risk of heart disease, to include heart attack and all the other things that go with it. I'm going to share with you the studies. I'm going to share the data. I mean, you can't make this stuff up because we live in a world right now where people are juicing. They're recommending juicing, and people feel like there's an allure to juicing. It feels like you're doing the right thing. And if you give me the next 30 minutes, I believe you'll look at juicing a little differently. And I'm not saying not to ever juice, because I'm going to share with you how you can juice and not cause problems. There's a way to do it. However, many people who make it a big part of their ritual, there's a very good likelihood that being consistent with juicing is contributing toward increasing their risk of heart disease, and that also includes all-cause mortality. It'll make more sense. Now, to help me do this a good service, I'm going to bring on one of our diet-free life coaches, the one and only Miss Amy Prime. How you doing, Amy?
I'm good. How are you today, Robert?
I am good, and thank you for kind of jumping on and spending some time with me right now.
Sure, you bet.
Because we're going to talk about, I want to talk about this, and I know you had some questions about allulose, the sugar that we recommend people use instead of a lot of these sweeteners that are out there. Mm-hmm. We will get to that.
Sure.
We may touch on it a little bit, but I want to really make available a huge show where we show people the real data, all the data behind it. So we can do that at another time, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, before we dive in and talk about this, what's new with Amy? Anything you want to share? And for those who want to get in touch with Amy, her website is listed under our description, so you can find that below. But Amy is a coach. So Amy, tell everybody who you are.
All right.
Tell them a little bit about yourself.
All right. Thank you, Robert, for having me as a guest today. So my name is Amy Prine. I'm a diet-free life nutrition and fitness coach. I'm from Darlington, Wisconsin, and I am obviously coaching people, health, nutrition, overall health. I am doing group coaching. I also do remote coaching, taking on new clients. My spaces are getting limited, so that's good news. So if you're interested, just feel free to reach out and get a hold of me, and we can get something lined up.
Okay. Well, there you have it, you guys. That's Amy Prime. Don't forget it. Okay. All right. So, Amy, we're going to talk about something. And you and I did not, I told you what we're going to talk about a little bit, but I didn't share with you the slides.
No.
Right? I just said, hey, let's jump on and let's talk about juicing, because we've always been the type to say, hey, look, it's best to eat the fruit than to drink the fruit.
Yes.
And we live in a world where there's a lot of people with very high levels of insulin resistance, and they don't even quite understand what that means. If they did, many people would eat and do things differently. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of people who can actually help people navigate through insulin resistance and put people in a position where they're less likely to experience insulin resistance, but we do,
Right.
and we're good at it. So today we're going to talk about something that actually can cause insulin resistance, and that is juicing. So let me just start by asking you, if you saw this title, juicing can cause heart disease, what's the first thing that came to mind for you?
The very first thing came in is like, wow, how many people know that it can actually cause heart disease? And I'm definitely sure that not many do. So it's very scary to read those headlines.
Okay. Now, and I would tell all coaches, make sure you listen to this. Anyone who's a health coach, you would want to benefit from this. And think about if everything that I'm saying right now, as far as before we even dived into this, if juicing can cause heart disease, right? Because there's a lot of really fit people, a lot of yoga friendly people, a lot of spiritual people, a lot of people close to nature. They're promoting juicing. They're telling people to juice.
Yes.
And that's a healthy thing to do. And people are going out of their way, and they look at these people who are juicing, and they all appear to be fit. They look healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I'm just going to start juicing.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about how it's good with all the antioxidants and all these benefits. And it just makes sense. Why not juice?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, let me walk you through a few things. And for those of you who are joining us, I want to encourage you to look at everything that we have below. If you want to jumpstart your weight loss, your health, we have a detox drop. If you want to contact Amy, reach out to Amy for a free consultation. You can reach out to me for a free consultation. If you want to become a coach like Amy, like myself, you can learn more about that. And I'm sure I forgot something, because I really want to get into this study and share with you guys why you don't want to be juicing continuously. Okay. Now, do you recognize this guy? Not me, because that's me with the late, great Jack LaLanne. Do you recognize him, Amy?
Yes.
Jack LaLanne is considered modern day father of fitness and health. A lot of young kids don't know him, and people who didn't learn about him until later in life saw him on an infomercial promoting juicing.
Yes.
And I became good friends with Jack LaLanne, and I can tell you right now that he didn't juice his entire life. That came about toward the end, and it was all about an opportunity for him to be the spokesperson of a product that was framed around juicing. So it wasn't something that Jack did when he was in his 30s or his 40s, in his 50s. It's something that he did later. But many people will say, hey, I saw Jack LaLanne juicing. He promoted juicing, and he's the father of modern day fitness and nutrition. And
So
most people over the age of 50 will be like, yeah. So Robert, who are you to say that juicing is not a good thing? And again, I'm not saying it's not a good thing.
Exactly.
And we're going to go into detail with that. But I'm going to share with you facts, not my personal opinion. There are studies that support everything that I'm sharing right now. But I just wanted to bring up Jack, because when people think about juicing, they think about Jack, and they think about that commercial. Did you ever see that commercial?
I did. And they're not realizing that it's moderation too.
Right. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into it. Okay. Because there's a few things that people must understand before they can understand why juicing can be detrimental. Okay. And part of that is understanding insulin and insulin resistance, right? Because we live in a world where everyone's thinking sugar, right? I guarantee you right now, there are people thinking, well, Robert, I have my own oranges. I have my own kale. I have my own apples in my backyard. I grow my own carrots. I don't have any added sugar to when I do my juicing. I do it all myself. There's nothing added. So I don't know what you're talking about, but it definitely ain't me.
Right.
And again, stay tuned, because we're about to go into that, and it will make way more sense. And for those of you who promote juicing, please take a moment and let's take off the hat called cognitive bias, and let's be open-minded and actually see what Amy and Robert are going to be talking about. Okay. Because you would hate to find out later. I mean, think about this, Amy. Imagine if part of our methodology was to get people to do juicing, once a day, every day for the rest of their life, or like maybe juice twice a day. I mean, I've even heard people say, juice 3 times a day.
Mm.
What if that was it? And then you find out 10 years later that all those people you encouraged to do juicing regularly, you increase their risk of heart disease. How would
It'd be
you feel
horrible.
as a coach?
I would feel horrible.
Absolutely.
I would
I'm
feel
with you.
horrible.
I'm with you.
Yep.
Okay. Actually, Lisa Marie is down there. She says, Jack LaLanne juicer, he sold me on it. Hey, it makes sense.
Uh-huh.
There's an allure to juicing. It makes sense from a difference. Someone else in our private group says juicing versus emulsifying. Again, don't miss what we're about to cover. We're about to cover some really good stuff. Leith and Leslie say, I remember seeing the ads for his juicer when I was little. Well, a lot of people bought that juicing, and a lot of people believe in juicing.
Right. I mean, because like you said earlier, it's the whole fruit. I'm not adding no sugar. I'm not adding anything. I've just got the fruit, Robert. So what's wrong with it?
Well, let's take a look.
Right.
And to understand it, you guys, insulin is a hormone, and it does a lot of really wonderful things in our body. Every cell in your entire body, bone cell, liver cell, brain cell, has a receptor for insulin. Insulin is I don't have anything negative to say about insulin. It's necessary for life. And if you don't have your own insulin that's being created and secreted in your body, then you can inject it. And that's how type 1 diabetics are able to live a healthy, long, quality life. However, when you have elevated levels of insulin, it's called hyperinsulinemia.
Yeah.
And when it's elevated for long periods of time, then it shows up in things like Alzheimer's, high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, migraines, type 2 diabetes. So before you're a type 2 diabetic, you had already had elevated levels of insulin. It could be 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. But your doctor never checked your fasting insulin, so you never knew. And if they had checked, then they would have caught it earlier that you had elevated insulin. And then you would have never got to the point, if you had corrected it, to where you became a type 2 diabetic.
Right.
So this is very important. Okay. So we get that elevated insulin is very important. And if everyone gets that, then what I'm about to share with you is going to make sense. Any questions come to mind, Amy? Is there anything I should expand on? We're not spending a ton of time talking about insulin and all that. We went right to like that elevated insulin can cause all of these negative health challenges.
Right. I just like the confirmation, and I tell this to my clients that yes, the blood glucose, the sugar is important, but more so insulin is the factor to all of those diseases that you just shared. And I think it's really good to enforce that to everybody that's listening and all of our clients that we are working with.
Awesome. You're right on. And someone, and I apologize because they're in our private group, unless they put their name at the end, we won't know who it is. But someone said insulin has never been the evil. Elevated levels is the devil. Okay, so they meant devil. So insulin has never been the devil. Elevated levels of insulin is the devil. And I would say, yeah.
Yeah, we have to have insulin to live.
Yes. And someone else says, or maybe it's the same person. Okay, I guess since you mentioned kale, that at least as far as the small intestine is concerned, that emulsifying, converting solid food to liquid is no different. Well, based on what we're talking about, there's no difference. You know what? And my gut told me that was David Putman that made that comment. Only someone like David would. I mean, David is so intelligent and so wise and so well-traveled and learned. That was David. That was David who made that comment.
His name just came up. Hi, David.
Hey, and you know what? Before I actually take the next step, and yeah, David, David's great. David will appreciate this. I have a client named Tina, and Tina has been injecting insulin, and we had a really good conversation because her blood sugar levels were looking pretty good, And I asked her, Amy, I said, you know what? And I mean, she's injecting insulin daily, and a good amount. So the other day, I said, well, I want you to wake up in the morning, don't inject insulin, and let's see where your blood sugar levels go. Well, it's been a couple of days and no injection of insulin.
Wow.
That's
Is
a
she type
big
1
deal.
then? She's type 1?
Oh no, she's type 2.
She's type 2.
Yeah. So the goal is when you're type 2, right? Is one of the first goals if you're injecting insulin is to get away from injecting insulin, because the more insulin in your body, the less likely you can lose weight and begin to improve some of those conditions we're talking about.
Right.
Okay. And I know people are like, come on, Robert, can we get there? Let's go. All right. So take a look at this chart. So this is from a study. On the far left, you can see that there's an apple, and then you can see under that apple, there's apple juice. So I'm going to expand this so people can really see it. Now, the GI next to the apple and the juice stands for glycemic index. And each one of those is given, the apple's given a number 38, apple juice is 41. So they're very close when you look at the sugar response to consuming the apple or the apple juice.
Right.
No added anything as far as in the apple juice. Both are 50 grams of carbs. 50 grams of carbs. Mm-hmm. But on the right, if you look at the insulin response, the apple juice is way higher than the apple. This only means something if you understand the importance of not having elevated insulin. Mm-hmm. So eating the apple brings the insulin levels down big time compared to drinking the apple. And this will be the exact same for anything that's been juiced. So there's no arguments on this. And you can, if you want to, the reference is underneath on the far right, you can look it up. And we know how this works with all types of foods. So when we're coaching a client, we're able to encourage them to eat certain things that we know will help bring the insulin levels down. Mm-hmm. Because most of our clients want to lose weight. And so we want them to be in a position where the fat cells will open up, let the fat out so it can be oxidized. That means burn and leaves the body. That is a big part of our goal. So before I go any further, whether it's you, Amy, if you think someone may have a question about this, but these two graphics right here demonstrate the importance of eating the apple compared to drinking the apple.
And I just want to add with this, I'm working with a client that has smaller children, and she was sharing with me how she gives her kids apple juice a lot, and I've got her convinced to back way off on that just due to the insulin. I don't, obviously people don't have the knowledge about it. And then when I share it with them, a lot of people don't even think about their children and the rest of their family, how important it is. So I think this is great that you're sharing all of this with people, and they can think of their own children, their own grandchildren, people involved in their life. So how important it is.
Oh, it's so important. And again, this is brand new to most people who are listening in.
Correct.
There's not many people talking about this like on the planet.
Right.
And I don't know of any other program that addresses this that even comes close to what we do. Mm-hmm. So it gives more value back to us as coaches and how we're able to help our clients navigate around this world of all this food everywhere and who's right and who's wrong. Again, we're just going to look at the science. And I'm not even calling the glycemic index science, but on the right, we're looking at the insulin response.
Right.
Eating the apple and drinking the apple juice. All right. So now it's about to get very interesting. Anybody got any questions? So let me see. Someone asked a question. Apple juice with a question mark. Might as well start drinking Coke.
Might as well start drinking Coke.
Okay. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. And maybe we need to pause here for a second. The important thing here, we're not talking about drinking Coke. We're not talking about drinking Gatorade. Gatorade is manufactured from scratch. Coke is manufactured from scratch.
Right.
Apple juice is manufactured from an apple. carrot juice is manufactured from a carrot. So it's important. And what takes place inside of our small intestine is based on the food that we consume. And we're talking about juicing from a whole food to now a liquid. Is now liquid. It causes this, it stimulates this secretion of insulin in a big way.
Right.
Arguably could be more than Coke. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the comparison.
That would be interesting.
It wouldn't surprise me. Okay. Now here's a study that we're going to talk about. This study right here, you can go to PubMed, you can look it up. The number right there is there. This study took place in 1998, and it was a 22-year follow-up in this study. They worked with a bunch of men, 970 to be specific. The ages were 34 to 64 years of age, and they were all free of cardiovascular disease. There was no signs of any of that. No diabetes. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to measure these men. So they looked at their glucose in the morning, their fasting insulin in the morning. They measured at when they first consumed the glucose, an hour later, 2 hours later. And this goes on for 22 years. And at the end of 22 years, and here's another abstract of it, it's been published. Again, going back to 1998, this is what we discovered. What we discovered, okay, is that if you look at so they broke them up into 5 different groups. The group with the lowest insulin, which is quintile 1, they were less likely to die from cardiovascular disease. The group that had the highest levels of insulin, who had hyperinsulinemia, they had increased likelihood of dying from cardiovascular disease. You can't make this up. And this is over a 22-year period, and it's very clear that this is the case. What's your thoughts on that?
Scary. Very, very interesting. It says a lot. It speaks a lot about the insulin levels in our bloodstreams.
Well, you know, to me, what's really scary is that this study took place and was confirmed in 1998. So they were looking at insulin way before that, right? And it's clear that elevated insulin is a cause to cardiovascular disease, which is considered the #1 cause of death in the world, which to me wouldn't be heart disease, it would be elevated insulin. Because elevated insulin, and of course you have genetics and there's other contributing factors that would cause heart disease. But when it's this clear, every doctor would be benefiting their patients by educating them on elevated insulin and the negatives that come with it.
Exactly.
And so for this reason, you guys, this is why we're talking about this. No one's looking at it. And it's very clear that if you can keep your insulin levels from being elevated, then that contributes back to your overall health.
Overall health. Exactly.
And so reversing that, right? If you have insulin resistance, before you were insulin resistant, you had elevated insulin. Talk to me.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like you said, the elevated insulin, that is the primary thing. And yeah, and I'm like you, I'm hoping that more doctors jump on board. And wouldn't it be wonderful if doctors were listening to this and educating their patients, like you said. And that's what I've been doing with my clients, is really educating them on, yes, the blood sugars are very important, but on how we eat definitely is very important, on how our body processes the sugar, how it converts, what it does to the insulin levels.
Absolutely. So let's look at it and give people a take home. And if anyone comes in late and is not making sense, just go back and begin. And I've looked at probably, I'm going to guess somewhere between 15 to 20 studies that support what we're talking about. Elevated insulin is the problem, as David mentioned earlier. So how can I like not elevate my insulin? Wouldn't that be the take home? Wouldn't that be what everybody wants to learn?
Yes, yes. Okay. Exactly. 100%.
Everybody would want to know that.
Yes.
Well, we're not going to go into great detail. I mean, obviously, if you're a client, then we can kind of help you because we can spend some quality time with you one-on-one. But some of the principle that I would share to help everybody who wants to like, okay, well, how do I do this, Robert? Like what do I do? Well, one, if you're really serious, I would say reach out to Amy or reach out to me and at least take advantage of a free consultation. I would start there. Two, if you don't have the time, you're feeling overwhelmed, or maybe you don't want to like get on the call, or maybe you're scared or you're shy. I don't know. The thing that I would encourage you to understand is that the further a food is from its natural state, the more likely you're going to have a higher spike of insulin. So if I eat a whole apple compared to drinking the whole apple is whole. It hasn't been processed yet. The apple juice has been processed. So the juice is going to give me a bigger spike of insulin. And if I'm doing that regularly, then we now know that elevated insulin consistently is not good.
Correct.
Now, if you remember, Amy, I said, I'm going to also talk about how you could juice.
Yes.
And not cause problems.
Yes.
Okay. So when someone says they juice, my first question is, what else do you do? Because you don't know what the rest of their life is like. Right? So when I'm following, or your client is following the Diet for Your Life methodology, and they're eating close to nature, but they like to do a juicing once a day, I don't think they're going to have a problem, because everything else they do is close to nature, and that means they're not causing their insulin levels to be elevated throughout the day. But if they're juicing 3 times a day, or they juice once because they're in the mood, and then they have a smoothie, and then they're eating some chips, and then they're eating things that are far from nature, well, insulin levels are up, they stay up, and one day, 5, 10, 15 years from now, they're insulin resistant. They don't even know it. And now, boom, they're diabetic. Now, boom, they have high blood pressure. Now, boom, cholesterol levels all over the place. Boom, triglycerides are elevated. Thoughts?
Yes, I totally agree with you 100% on that. And I actually make a smoothie, not every day of the week, but I'm going to say probably 4 to 5 times a week. That is in the detox drop. So as you said, it definitely depends on what you do the rest of the day, the rest of the week, maintaining, keeping your insulin levels down. So I always tell my clients, everything in moderation. Everything in moderation is the key, I feel.
Well, and I'm with you. And like if someone, let's say someone went to a I don't know, like a retreat, and at that retreat it was like a wellness retreat, and they're going to juice the whole week, I don't see a problem with that either. But I would also want to look at what the rest of their lifestyle looks like. So remember, the people who are more likely to experience cardiovascular disease because of elevated insulin is because they've had elevated insulin for a good period of time. And so that means, what was their lifestyle like? What did they eat? Like what else was going on? My concern is when you see those people who look fit, they look lean, they look like they take care of themselves, and then you hear, like, through a friend, or you learn about it, maybe they're popular and they died of a heart attack. It's like, what? He worked out all the time. And then you find out that they were juicing all the time. And other than that, they didn't eat a lot of processed food, but they did a lot of juicing. Anything that's going to spike the insulin levels and you're consistent with it, whether it's juicing or whether it's eating a whole bunch of processed, ultra processed foods, insulin is still being elevated. And that's where the culprit is. It's insulin. Okay. Anyone else have questions? Feel free to bring it our way, but you're about to say something, Amy.
And it's hard with the society the way it is. I mean, like the fast foods and everything is so overly processed, and that puts a damper on things too. So you have to have the knowledge on the choices to make to help improve your health.
Right. And everybody's different, right?
Right.
I was talking to someone not long ago who had really high levels of their triglycerides were really high. And once I started asking questions to learn about their nutrition habits, this guy was doing like 2 smoothies and a juice a day. He was doing wheatgrass juice. He was doing 2 smoothies, and he felt like, hey, man, I'm doing great. I'm eating healthy. I'm only doing I do 2 smoothies a day. I do wheatgrass juicing, and then I have 1 meal. He was like, I don't understand why my triglycerides are so high. And then I did his insulin numbers. Oh my God. They were so high. You know how we do like the ratio between HDL and triglycerides?
Yes.
If it's 1.5 or higher, then we know there's a level of insulin resistance. His was like 49.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when I was talking to him, and I could be, maybe it's 29. I mean, it was like, I have it written way up there. It's the highest I've ever seen. And he goes, is it good? Is it bad? I go, if you were my brother, I would want you to get in your car and drive to my house, and you're going to stay with me for 3 months because I'm afraid for you to go to sleep at night. And this guy is like 6'1", 200 pounds, 44 years of age. Who knew? And then as I dug deeper, I found out he had high blood pressure. So he has all the things in place to literally go to bed and not wake up.
And I'm assuming he looked fit from the outside.
Yeah. Think about it. If I don't know if you know anyone who's 6'1", 200 pounds, you're not overweight.
Yeah.
6'1", 200 pounds.
Yep. So he just thought he was fit.
Yeah.
Physically fit.
Knocking out those smoothies, two a day. Let me do a little wheat juice. These things are not helping. They were hurting, and then I found out his triglycerides were elevated.
So did you get him to stop the smoothies or slow down?
We stopped for a second, but like a lot of people, they just go back to their old ways.
Go back to their old lifestyle.
Oh yeah. Or they just sweep it under the rug and they don't want to deal with it.
Won't happen to me.
And then they start looking for something else. Let me try something else. Let me do this and do that. And they just keep playing games with themselves. But somewhere in the back, if I've coached them or I've spent some time talking to them, and I'm sure the same with you, they know that they were introduced to the truth, and eventually they'll come back. Unless something, God forbid, something unfortunate happens to them.
Yeah, age of 44, that's very young.
Yeah.
Very
young. Let me see. Who do we have here? Eldonna. What's up, Eldonna? Eldonna, make sure you watch this whole thing because we covered some very, 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 I would say a very important, what do you call it? Understanding, like.
It's the key. It's to me, it's the key that puts it all together.
Yes, I agree. And then she says, I just bought a blender that's still in the box. Well, a blender, I'm not saying don't do smoothies.
Right.
And I'm not saying don't do juicing. What we're saying is become informed of what is called elevated insulin. The proper name is hyperinsulinemia. If you have that, which most people do, that comes right before type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. You can have perfect fasting glucose. You can have a perfect hemoglobin A1C. Because trust me, Amy, there's people going, oh, my sugar is good, because their brain is thinking sugar.
Right, not insulin.
They're not thinking insulin. They're not.
Right.
And we just demonstrated that these men they were dying prematurely because
Mm-hmm.
if they didn't have elevated insulin, they could have still been around longer and
Right.
had better quality of life.
Yep. Robert, would you, and I know it, but for people that may not know it, would you explain the hyperinsulinemia? Hyper
Yes.
being elevated.
All right. So let me see. We had a couple questions first. So Leith and Leslie say, okay, sticking close to nature. If someone is lactose intolerant, but occasionally wants to have milk, are they better off to choose an ultra filtered milk or one with an added enzyme? Man, that's a tough one.
See, that one's deep.
Yeah, it's just that if you're lactose intolerant, or at least for me, then and I can feel it, then I'm not drinking anything that causes that discomfort. Right? It's kind of like I have a cousin who is allergic to shrimp. And every time he eats shrimp, his lip swells, his eyes swell up. Sometimes he can't even drive.
Mm.
And I eat shrimp a lot. So whenever he's around me, at one point, I'm probably going to eat shrimp. If we're around each other for 2 or 3 days, and he'll like say, hey, can I have a bite? And I always go, dude, you're allergic to shrimp. I can just have a bite. And then boom, face swells. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing?
When you know that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get that part.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because that's your life situation. That's just your situation.
Right.
I would work on accepting that you're lactose intolerant.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would do.
And stay
Now,
away from things.
yeah.
So, Robert, David is asking if you would put up that photo of the diseases caused by insulin resistance.
Okay. Okay. This one right here.
Yep.
All right. Insulin resistance, where that shows that the disease's results. Yep. So as you can see, like PCOS, which you hear a lot of women dealing with, that's insulin resistance of the ovaries. Heart disease, that's insulin resistance of the heart. Insulin resistance is real. You know, there's been studies done from North Carolina to Tufts University, and they both are ranging somewhere like 88 to 93% of adults have some type of metabolic disorder, right? Hypertension, high triglycerides, high cholesterol, obesity, etc. And we believe that somewhere north of over 50% of all adults, and the percentage goes up higher over the age of 50, that have insulin resistance. And if you don't deal with insulin resistance, you're going to always struggle with your ability to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably not going to do well. And then you say, well, I know someone who lost weight. Maybe they took the weight loss drug. Okay, but what kind of weight? Is more likely to be skeletal muscle,
Exactly.
which then messes up a whole bunch of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's what people do is they look at the weight on the scale, you know, not as much as the body fat percentage and doing the body composition. They're just fixed on that number, as we all were. I mean, that's how we were raised, is what is the number on the scale?
mm-hmm.
So what kind of weight are you losing?
Yep. So Miss Linda Jackson says reversing insulin resistance is the key, like the foundation of youth. Yes, it's either preventing it from ever happening, which you can't prevent something you don't even look for, right? So if your doctor is never looking at fasting insulin, then, I mean, you know what I mean? This is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this is crazy that we're not looking at I mean, it's going to happen. And there's quite a few doctors and biochemists and people advocating for insulin resistance, or fasting insulin to be part of a normal lab procedure. Right. Eventually it will happen. But for those of us who want to just wait on the doctors, I'm not waiting on the doctors and waiting on these people to help us realize the importance of it. You must walk into that doctor and demand. Mm-hmm. And if they don't help you get the your fasting insulin, there's ways of getting your fasting insulin without your doctor. And it may cost somewhere between $15 to $25, but that's max. And then
So what
or
would
if
you
you go ahead.
Excuse me.
No, I
What
was
do
saying
you,
if a person has lab work, we can do an estimate of their level of insulin resistance with their current lab work without fasting insulin.
okay, without fasting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then can you just call your medical facility and ask for lab work, or don't you have to have the doctor's
Well, but
has to
like
order it?
walkinlab.com, a person could go there, find an area close to them, near them, and the lab will let them come in. And this is not all states, but most states. And you can get whatever lab work you want.
Okay.
So walk in lab, put in your information. It'll find the area nearest you at the best price for exactly what you want. And that would be fasting insulin. And if you can always get your fasting insulin and your fasting glucose, then there's other testing that we can do to help a person identify their level of insulin resistance, as well as, where we are and where we need to be in order for that resistance to be gone.
Okay.
Let me see. Someone says, my doctor thankfully didn't flinch the other day when I asked him to add fasting insulin panel to my next lab work. There you go. It's happening.
Yep.
It's happening. This is good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Any other questions coming, you guys? I hope everybody's having a good, happy Saturday. Life is good. I'm beginning the detox on Monday.
I'm joining you.
All right. Well, let's rock. We're going to drop it like it's hot.
We're going to drop it like it's hot.
Any other questions coming in from the outside? Any questions from you, Amy? Anything you want to bring up before we say goodbye?
No, you covered a lot. So thank you very much.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. And hey, do us a favor. If you feel someone would benefit from understanding what we've talked about, add them in the comments. If you're on Facebook, tag them, forward this, share this on your page, and just put a note on there. Hey, you guys, there's some good information here. Just looking out. God bless. Whatever. It's like Jacqueline Lane used to say, if you're excited about something, don't keep it a secret.
Share it.
And excitement doesn't mean yay, woohoo, yay, yay. Excitement is like, I want to pay it forward. I want to help somebody else. I want someone else to be informed.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people juicing today. They're going to be juicing tomorrow. Some people are doing it all the time, and they don't understand all the other things around nutrition that would help them bring their insulin levels down. And let's say that they're 28 years old and they're juicing and they're eating certain things that we know stimulates or causes insulin levels to go up. Well, at 40, they're going to just walk into and get some lab work done, and maybe they're starting to have migraines, or maybe they go in, because we all meet those thin people that have high blood pressure. It's like, wait a minute, why you're not overweight? Yeah, but they've had elevated insulin for a long time, and that shows up as migraines. That shows up as high blood pressure. I mean, come on.
Yep.
Okay, someone asked the question, can you do a live soon on statins? Yeah, we're due for another thing on statins. Yeah, we'll talk about cholesterol for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a big one. But I would say do our food as medicine. We went deep on that one in the food as medicine course. So if you have access to that, I would definitely go back to that.
That was wonderful.
We had a whole session on cholesterol.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, that was great. All right. Well, thank you, Amy.
Well, thank you.
Hey. Have a good weekend. And
you too.
We will follow up, Amy, I promise you, and we will spend an entire session just talking about allulose.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, you guys. Well, everybody have a good one. And if you want to learn more about Amy, go to amyprine.com. And I'm Robert Ferguson. Until the next one.
Thank you. Bye.